So this Scorpio solar eclipse is going to arrive very, very soon here. I'm recording this on the 20th. We have 5 days out from this Scorpio solar eclipse, a very challenged eclipse symbolically. The symbols in this eclipse are very challenged. And in fact, both eclipses this eclipse season have quite rough energy. And so I want to break it down in this video. I just want to talk about it, have a dialogue here. How can we manage these symbols and this energy? And I'm really happy to be here. By the way, I'm glad to be back. I just want to thank everybody for hanging with me and for, giving me the patience here to recover from my sickness. It really took me by surprise that I became ill and I wasn't able to work for about a week. So I'm really happy to be back here. One of my favorite parts of what I do is this ongoing conversation with the world about astrology, this unknown other that's out there. Includes you. Many people I know watch my channel, but many, many more I do not know. And so I'm happy to be here and to connect with you. So thanks for your well wishings as well. I appreciate you all wishing me get well soon. But here is the video. Here's the chart that we're going to be going into today. And this is that Scorpio solar eclipse, 25 October, Tuesday here, right around noon in London. And so you're going to have a really potent eclipse here. And, just to start talking about it, look where Venus is. This is the thing I want to bring in because it's a big part of what I want to describe is that Venus is in Scorpio, the sign of what we call its exile, because Scorpio is opposite the sign Venus rules, which is Taurus. And so it's the exact opposite of where it's comfortable. Exile, if you go with this metaphor or analogy, is the idea that you're farthest away from where you're comfortable. So you've been removed from your homeland and you're in an area where maybe you don't speak the language, you don't understand the customs. So that's what Venus is braving during this eclipse. Now it's 39 degree minutes from the sun. So it's still technically in the heart of the sun. It's finishing up this powerful cazimi that we will have here on the 22nd. And it's taking a couple of days to separate finally and get out of that 1 degree range from the sun. So maybe that's some kind of mitigation. What I've been saying, though, is that would you want a cazimi with an eclipsed sun? It almost corrupts that sunlight and that those rays of the sun get sort of corrupted because it's eclipsed. And so I don't think this is the kind of Venus cazimi we're wanting with an eclipsed sun. But I mean, this is just right out of the gate here. Venus is joy, fun, pleasure, happiness. And when Venus gets roughed up, this might be under strain. And so right away, you might want to just give yourself permission as you're getting into this first eclipse, into this eclipse season. Venus is going to be in Scorpio for both eclipses, but to be okay if things just aren't as happy, if you're not as firing on joyful cylinders, that's okay. Life is not always the box of chocolates. What is the Forrest Gump? I know that's a misquote from Forrest Gump, but life isn't always just, I like to say rainbows, candy canes and unicorns or whatever we want to say. There's a season in life for grief and sadness. And I think this Venus in exile with the eclipsed sun is certainly a candidate for letting some of those feelings come out. The other thing is that during both of these eclipses, so from 21st October to 8 November, both Mars and Saturn are going to be in the degree of their respective stations. So Mars will be stationing retrograde, Saturn direct. And so these malefics are going to be stopped in the sky together for over 2 long weeks, basically overseeing this whole eclipse season moment. You'll have a dead stopped Mars and a dead stopped Saturn. And so it does empower malefic energy when planets station during those moments of stillness. They do get there can be peaks of intensity there. And I don't think this is symbolically boding well for the kind of joyful, carefree side of life during this eclipse season. So just keep that in mind. We've got here now the eclipse chart that includes the outers, just to bring some of the outers in. I know most people love to look at the outers. They want to know where they are. So here you go. These are the modern outer planets with Eris as well. But you can see Uranus is in the mix. Uranus will be opposite that first eclipse, wide orb, but still you have a Uranian component to this eclipse season, which could be, the surprises, the unexpected. If eclipse seasons weren't enough of the idea of that we expect the unexpected. You add Uranus to the mix and it doubles that up. So you may want to hold life loosely, wear it like a loose garment. Give yourself room to maneuver during this 2-week period, because there could be the kind of unexpected that emerges. And with the difficult, the stopped malefics, you can see him here, Mars in the 25th degree, Saturn in the 8th. So actually the 26th degree or 25 degrees, Saturn in the 19th degree or 18 degrees. They're going to be there the whole time, right on those degrees. It's like they send a sharp laser focus to that part of the zodiac, those degrees. And so, we all are dealing with these laser focused malefics. And then on top of it, that Uranian. So, okay, let me just keep pushing through. I want to go next to Antiochus of Athens from the Thesaurus, translated by Robert Schmidt, edited by Robert Hand, from Project Hindsight, the famous Project Hindsight. And I want to talk now about Venus. Why does Venus suffer there in Scorpio, where it will be for both eclipses? It will rule that second eclipse by domicile. And he has a wonderful quote here. This is one of my favorite paragraphs because it describes it's a theory on planetary delineation, first of all. And then it's also and then it applies that theory to the idea of exile. And so here it is. Look, what does he say? He says, then again, why is it that the houses of Eris are contrary to the houses of Aphrodite? He just means here that the signs, so again, signs and houses, similar, they're equated here like they often are in the ancient system. But he says the houses of Aries, which are Scorpio and Aries, why are those signs contrary to Aphrodite? And he says here, we say that it is because Aphrodite is the overseer of every desire, delight, and pleasure. So he's delineating Venus here as a core signification, desire, delight, and pleasure. But that the significations of Mars, so Eris, is the overseer of every fear, war, and passion. And so you're combining and mixing planetary energies that just don't combine. That's the core here. And so when we have to filter our lovely Venus, our pleasurable, beatific Venus, through Scorpio, which the nature of the sign of Scorpio, because Mars dominates there, it's a sign of roughness, a passion, fear, war. There's no mix there for Venus. Venus basically has to succumb to these really difficult martial energies. And so that is a major, again, theme of the eclipse season, is that the pleasure has to be turned way down, and it rides second fiddle, and it gives itself over to the difficulties of this martial moment. And it's not just Mars that is, and I'm going to stop share, I'll come back here, but it's not simply that it's Venus being ruled by Mars in exile, but that Mars is stopping in the sky. It's in a retrograde station moment. And so we're having to also add the difficulty of Mars stopping and then moving backward to the already present difficulties of Venus in Scorpio. That's just the normal course of difficulty. And so being prepared for blocks, delays, all the things that a retrograde station can bring, things that may have to wait. You may have to put your life on pause in a certain way. I just had to do that last week. All of my stuff arrived early because I unfortunately got sick, this unpredictable sickness. But, it was the perfect thing for me to set myself up for eclipse season. It's all right. I'm stopping. And this is that retrograde Mars that's slowing now. It's not quite retrograde yet, but it's very close to being retrograde. It's very slow in the sky. And so that look for things like that. God forbid you get sick. Everybody send you the best out there for your health. But maybe it's other projects, other things you have that are involved in your life. Remember that Mars, it rules the sun, the solar eclipse sun by domicile. But the second eclipse, it rules the Venus, which rules the eclipsed moon. So that Mars stops in the degree of its retrograde station, plays a major, major theme in the eclipse season, and therefore is just thematically one we have to put right on the front burner. Delays around action that are part of this eclipse moment. Okay, so let me come back I'm going to keep going here with a few more slides I've prepared, a few more images. I want to go next to Abraham Ibn Ezra. This is from James Holden's great book about horoscopic astrology. And he profiles a bunch of astrologers, but Ibn Ezra, a Jewish scholar from the 11th, 12th century there. And when Ibn Ezra writes, Holden quotes here some of Ibn Ezra's aphorisms, but he says the star, which is about to assume a retrograde motion, is static retrograde, is like a man bewildered and trembling at the misfortunes which will befall him. That's our Mars during this eclipse season, which plays a rulership role, again, over both eclipses. You've got a man bewildered and trembling at misfortunes which will befall him. And so, he says here, the star which retrogrades is like a twitching and rebellious person. That will happen in between eclipses. So just keep that in mind. If you're feeling bewildered, it's part of the Mars retrograde, which rules these eclipses, no doubt. Here's a story I wanted to bring in just to hit the themes here. I saw that this week. Mike Tyson tells Sadhguru, he grew up in a neighborhood where deaths and prostitution were normal. And then Sadhguru called him a lotus flower. That is someone who emerges out of the mud, right? It's a spiritual idea that even in mud and challenge and obstacle and difficulty and the significations of Mars from Antiochus, war, fear, forgot the other one, passion. Even amidst that, you can have this beauty emerge. That's that Venus in Scorpio, the beauty that comes from the mud. So you may think about that as if you are struggling during this time, what beauty is emergent? And by the way, don't let astrology somehow prescribe struggle for you. The symbols here are tough, okay? As an astrologer, I'm just reading the symbols. Have a great eclipse season. If you're doing great, just have a great one. Forget all of this stuff. Maybe you just don't even need to think about it in this way. And you can just let your life happen. We can't let astrology define for us reality if reality is being experienced in a way different than the astrological symbols may be indicating. Okay, so the next slide here. This is this book by Pema Chodron. I've never actually read this book. So many people have suggested it to me. I've read excerpts of it and some other Pema Chodron texts where they've excerpted this book. But I always love the title, When Things Fall Apart, Hard Advice for Difficult Times. This is the kind of, heart-centered, balms that we can kind of hold on to during this eclipse season, I think, with that Venus in Scorpio. When things fall apart, and it says here, how can we live our lives when everything seems to fall apart, when we are continually overcome by fear, anxiety, and pain? There's that key word for Mars from Antiochus, fear. And the answer, Chodron suggests, might be the opposite of what you expect. And here's some quotes just from the Amazon page. Letting there be room for not knowing is the most important thing of all. Sounds so obvious, doesn't it? But to see that and maybe center that, okay, I'm not going to know. I don't know. It's perfect for a Mars retrograde station and then a retrograde period. And it's perfect for an eclipse season with some difficult symbols to just let us give room for not knowing them and just give time, let time work. That's what astrology is. It's another synonym for time. It's just the clock of the planets. Let those planets work themselves out. There's going to be a period in, I think it's November 17th-ish, where Venus comes into Sagittarius. There's going to be a new moon there. And that will kind of refresh this difficult little period that we've had with Venus struggling so much. Okay, let me just keep pushing here. These are some of the charts I wanted to share about what's going down after this eclipse. So on the 28th of October, you're going to have Jupiter coming back into Pisces. It's going to trigger up all the stuff that happened from before. You had Jupiter in Pisces from December to May 2022. Then you had Jupiter in Pisces the summer in 2021 from like May, June, July. So you can just go back and consider those times, and there's going to be another dose of that coming. I just want to throw Rudyard in here. It's not a video about Jupiter and Pisces, but this is part of that second eclipse and a part of the season between eclipses. He talks about the sea depths. There's violence and storm. Severance is performed by the sword. This is him talking about Pisces. Fanaticism is ruthless, and the monks retreat into the desert where he can best face in aloneness his entire past and all the human race's memories is the trial of courage and resilient strength. So This is the power of Pisces, the mystical openness, and the Piscean will be coming back here during this eclipse season. It's another intense energy, heavy truth doses with Jupiter there. And we may be having to be kind of tossed around a little bit between these eclipses and dealing with this final dose. It's ultimately good. Jupiter, I feel like in Pisces, has very large redeeming qualities, but truth can be difficult to digest. And so be prepared for that. The 30th, here's the retrograde station of Mars. Look at it right there. That's going to happen in between eclipses, 5 days after this solar eclipse. I'm going to kind of wind this down. I wanted to talk a little bit here about, in this video, the moon sign changes in between eclipses. Effectively, they're all going to be pretty harmed, this moon, because if it's just, this is a chart from 8 November, but just, I'm going to walk through it. So the first eclipse is a moon, it's in Scorpio and its sign of fall. Then the moon will oppose Mars. Then the moon will be in its sign of exile. Then the moon will be with Saturn. Then the moon will be square Mars. Then the moon will be in Aries, ruled by a retrograde Mars. Then the moon will be eclipsed in Taurus. Then the moon will be with Mars in Gemini. It's not till this Cancer moon in that second week of November that we really get a moon that's kind of safe and where there's rest. And so just be prepared for that, we're entering into a little bit of a stream of kind of disjointed moons and that between these eclipses. And just prepare yourself, okay? And then finally, I just want to bring the tarot in, this card, Death. This is the card that corresponds to Scorpio. And it's one of the scariest cards. A lot of times in film, you'll see the Death card come up and it's like, oh, this is like the mean witch, and the tarot is doing some crazy stuff for like a plot point that relates to some movie about witchcraft. But the thing about the Death card, which is so great, is that there's these plants you can see down here at the bottom. This is a rendition of an old deck, so it's maybe not as clear, but there's plants that are growing. And this is a regenerative force of Scorpio. That's one of the best things about it. You know, if you go in to feel your difficult pain and emotions, if you're going deep inside and looking at the traumas and the sufferings, the fruits on the other side of that can be so profound, because it means that there's what I like to call integration of the self. You know, that can only happen when pain is allowed to exist and be seen. There's only one way through, and that is to go through. That's it. There's only one way out, I guess, is to go through. And there's parts of life where pain is required to be felt and seen in order for the new self that we all have in us. The new selves we're constantly birthing, but those new selves require us to purge and go through painful periods. And that's the Scorpio archetype, just, you know, I think maybe best encapsulated. That's why they say Pluto rules Scorpio. Pluto is very much that. It's the tiny that when you uncover it, it really can transform everything. Mars is the same. You know, you peel back deep into some pain, suffering, it can hurt. That's Mars. So give yourself room to heal and to feel the phase of healing where you're looking at some difficult stuff. That may be part of your eclipse season. And if it is, you know, I send you my, you know, love and just respect, really respect you for that, because it's not easy to face things. So, all right. And I guess there we go. My website, sjanderson144.com. There you go. I'm going to have a new video up. I'm sad seeing this a little bit because I've had about 10 days without one, but this one will be out soon. You can find everything out about me here and what I offer and everything like that. So check it out. And I hope you have a lovely, 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 wonderful week. Until next time, glad to be back. Talk to you really, really soon. Peace.